looking into this idea of the perfect society. Maybe the word ideal is better because perfect is not possible in the physical realm. There's always going to be duality. The the chance of problems or problematic people or even natural occurrences like the sun exhausting its energy and so requiring us to either safely move to another planet that's near a star or be be destroyed as a species and then just reincarnate into other intelligent conscious life forms. So in an ideal world, I want to put emphasis on two things. One of them is obviously it's to do with marriage. It's what is the highest form of love. I would say it's marriage. But it doesn't really matter if you're say you're going towards marriage or you religion claims to be of marriage. By the way, check out the new I got the new patch here. How about that, guys? You guys can get patches too. You guys can get patches too. And then, of course, you can get wristbands as well, all on shieldheart.org. So, it's not enough to just want marriage. You have to pursue it in a scientific and efficient way. Because what I find is that the way life works, an easy example is the saving of money. Unless you're doing it in the most efficient and sincere way possible, unless you are really trying to, for example, you can do fun activities that are free if you're trying to save money, and you can eat, you know, and you can like not spend so much, right? You can get it into saving, get excited about that. I find that unless people are doing something in the most efficient way they know how, then they're not really doing it. They're not really meeting the universe with their best. So just the same, if people think that, oh well, I'll have a boyfriend and girlfriend. By the way, who would want to be a boy or a girl or a friend? You know what I mean? But they say that unless they're doing it like that, then they, they think that, oh well, it might work out. We'll just try to see if it works and see if we're compatible. People should know what their compatibilities or interests in the realms of lifestyle preferences and intimate preferences. These are all things that a person can know before they meet, before they before they are near a person. And by the way, it shouldn't be like I want my future spouse to be this, and this. It should be, this is who they are, based upon who you are. Insisting upon certain aspects of who you are, and that is how they will be, and that's the only, and so I found this way to transcend all of this by simply the man, regular self-intimacy with the quote-unquote pocket pussy or quote-unquote stroker toy. And I do have a recommendation for that as to purchasing. It's going to cost well, I'll leave a link in the description. Okay, so and women as well. Women need to explore themselves. They shouldn't be waiting for their husband, and it shouldn't be like, oh, they're wondering, what they like. It's like they should know what they like, and it's not just about knowing what you like. It's about balancing things, because just because, let's say, somebody has a body that you consider the most attractive, and then a personality that you really like, what if what if what if you what if they have values, you know so it's all a balancing act of, for, like I was saying, what are the two things that are, I think, core to an ideal society? Well, one is the pursuit of marriage in an efficient way, because I think it's the highest form of love, and I think everyone would agree. And two is the principled man. Now, why don't I also say principled woman? I think women's mind is not as focused on philosophy and logic and the pursuit of certain value structure, but women are more about the emotions of kind of not having to think about that, because thinking about it is difficult. Women need to be able to to raise little children who are can be intolerant because of their crying. Uh, you know, it's like, women need to deal with the existential burden of recreation, and so, and women should be allowed to be in their feminine in an ideal society. What that consists of is, and this isn't for everyone, but I think it's for the majority of people who are people wanting to have families and that are heterosexual, planning to have a heterosexual marriage. For those people, it makes sense to create a healthy gender separation, which, if you look at the stronger, more orthodox forms of religion, that's how it is. There's there's a healthy gender separation, which you might say is about anti sexuality, but it's really a celebration of sexuality and the reality that there are strong feelings, and that we don't want to preemptively pursue those, and engage in unloving premarital intimacy, which and yesterday I did a live stream in Waikiki. It was exciting. I talked about how women, what have they done with their freedom? Well, let's not be too harsh on women, because they do have a more emotionally way of approaching things. So the way they can approach things can be not logical, and they can do things like pastors in churches are now catering to women because there's a more larger women audience, and the women are, it's like they're they like the emotional arguments, like using emotional arguments to say, oh, you shouldn't do this. But I mean, and it's a man's world, and it's, I'm not saying that because I don't think women can make things happen and work and everything, but I'm saying that women should have the privilege to be feminine and to experience that. And it's and it's like I said, it's like how are they going to use their new freedom? And men have new freedoms too. This is all a consequence of technologies that we have. Men and women, we have these new options now. So it's like, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to just kind of mess around and be hedonistic and orient ourselves around gratification, or are we going to orient ourselves around principles? And so it's the archetype of the 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 feminine follower and the masculine leader. And here's the thing: women have a psychological draw towards the bad boy persona, because this bad boy does not seem desperate to want them. He has other options. And I think men need to masturbate, which allows for them to not be controlled by their desires, which allows them to not feel desperate to, get a woman right away for intimacy. It allows them to choose a woman because she likes her values, and because she likes it, she's willing to follow him. And guys, it's not about that it's like it has to be like this. It's just it's an idealized situation where people should want to follow. Women should want to play a role, and men should want to play a role, because it makes life more of a a duality, and creates some magnetism, creates fun, where the man's the breadwinner and the woman raises the children, and she is like his cheerleader, and he gets to, and then maybe in the future he suffers an injury which he can't work as much, and maybe the woman starts to work more, and she becomes the breadwinner and the hero, and then he can perhaps operate more in the feminine and supportive, and like whatever it is, cook dinners and give her massages and everything, but it's okay. So just like men can be dark, and they can try to manipulate women, or not be satisfied with one woman. By the way, I don't know if I have activated some new DNA or what have you, but in my view of the world, I like to view it through the lens of, I like to celebrate woman and her flower, and that is because I'm able to sustain my own desire for orgasmic activation. I'm like, all that's left for me is to, I don't need a woman for that. So what do I want a woman for? I want to love her and to celebrate her, and because she has the same values as me, and she wants, she just wants to live together. We want to live together and have fun and enjoy each other. And so what that consists of is me giving her massages and oral pleasure in her, so that she feels, and then so it makes it easier, I think, to orient it around the woman's flower, instead of trying to think so much about men and their genitals, as a lot of pop culture may want to do. And guys, we need to recognize that we could become extinct as a species. Nice, Nosh. How are you, man? We could become extinct as a species if we weren't careful. And so, in an ideal society, right? How do we make a stable society? Well, it's by having the men trust each other. And the way you do that is through the men trusting that the other men will not try to manipulate their sisters or their daughters, and so, or their future wives for that matter, because And you know, these quote unquote alpha men, manosphere guys, like top notch. I don't know if you've familiar with these characters like Fresh and Fit and John Zerka and and the like, but they kind of have this narrative of, oh, you know, women in the West are moral, uh, you know, departed, morally departed, and so it's better to seek women who elsewhere where these women are virgins and they're protected by their fathers and they're from a culture that puts emphasis on the man's playing a masculine role, woman playing a feminine role. That is ideal, and so the way that we make sure that that happens is we we just we separate the genders. Women use their freedom to do what they want to freely but but voluntarily choose to follow their father and their biological men in their family, and they're just their family members who look out for them and don't want to possibly have intimacy with them, but they just want to look out for them. And you know, we can do this, guys. We can we can make an ideal society where men trust each other, and like I was saying, like the Orthodox men who are you know, religious, they they celebrate and they protect women, and this allows for societies where, you know, people may have this bias towards Israel or the Palestinians, or you know, Jews versus Muslims or Christians versus, you know, Muslims. But if they look at the core roots, the core essence, people get distracted by the ritualism and the dogmatism and the narratives of religions. But what's important is the practical practices that religions have, and one of them is to celebrate and protect women, and you know, for example, not be too close to women, you know, not touch them. That women should dress carefully, and this isn't to say that I also think that women should perform in as a stripper, but the way that should be done in a healthy society is where only the strippers are, they're married women, and so there isn't this element of, well, does the stripper want to potentially paid more prostitutional type of stuff? No, it's just purely showing off their body and their vagina. And I think it's really important that men stop thinking of so much about like women's breasts, because that's more for babies, and start focusing instead on women's flower, because I think that's like, as a man who works hard and just is in his testosterone, I think that's the direction he goes. And so well, looks like I have a round of applause in the background. Miss Debbie, that is an individualized question. Miss Debbie, I'd like you to go to my website for a moment. It's called shieldheart.org, and I actually don't mention that on the website. But on the website, let's say you go to the membership. Uh, you know, if you look at under core values, so I think that's a personal question, you know, preference, and I think it makes sense because that ensures that the woman won't be alone. But let's go through our core values at Shieldheart. So, and by the way, did you guys see the new? I got a new patch now. and obviously it's placed over the heart, and it takes courage to say, you know what, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to be my own authority. I'm not going to label other people, my parents or whatnot, because that just puts you in a submissive state mentally. Even if they're good people, you need to be your final authority, and you need to operate in that frequency, and that'll make you self-respect yourself more. See, one of the big problems in the world is that men are not principled, and therefore they don't respect themselves. Like they get seduced by their own desires, and by women, and that puts the power in women's hands. But the power should be in man's hands. Like, I can easily, even if a woman's attractive, I can easily say, no, do not want to have intimacy with you. And that's because I masturbate every day, sometimes twice a day. And I use toys. This is the modern age we live in. We can use toys to manage our own desires. So what are the kind of the core values that are prerequisites to becoming a member of Shieldheart? Starting with a commitment to helping yourself and others to achieve a loving marriage with no premarital intimacy. And this also includes verbal intimacy. People don't realize that all these flirtations and going on dates, it's all designed to attach people and keep them together. And so it's only practical for use in an actual marriage. In the past, only married people would go on dates because it was an outward showing to the public that they were together. So number 2, labeling no one your higher authority or a hierarchical role, such as a father, mother, uncle, even terms like older brother, sister, master, even stuff like calling someone your doctor. Like, you can say that you hire them to be your doctor and to help you manage, but that all should be temporary. You shouldn't be having people always be your doctor. Miss Debbie, I if you can explain to me why you think that question is relevant, then, because I want you to be really exacting in why you think I should answer that, and then I will answer that. But I need to hear some more intellectual basis for your inquiry. All right, so number 3 is just the same as labeling no one your hierarchy. You want to not label anyone submissive to you, because that isn't not to your benefit. When you label somebody as submissive, such as a son and niece, they become emotionally and financially expecting of you. Miss Debbie, these are useful questions. I'll answer them after I'm done with describing the last few core principles. So at Shieldheart, we also like to practice fair trade and veganism, and as your budget allows, because this brings better karma to you. People would surely agree that, if you're hurting animals to eat and you have a choice, then of course the universe is not going to grant you favorable karma for that. It's gonna the universe likes to have harmony, I believe. And this doesn't mean like be you hippie kumbaya with the animals. I think that's bestiality. This whole and that's actually another one of my core principles, is no pets, especially animals that are right. No, I was asking about the one about when's the last time you were with a woman. I do believe in the mercy killing, and it's actually that the woman would take would it's like the man would would help her, go on magic mushrooms and then be, with her, and then like help her to gradually leave her body, and then he would leave after her. The point is, it's imperative that no woman be left alone without a husband. It should always be the woman that leaves her body first, so that she doesn't feel a sense of loneliness or uncertainty, but she should be helped, gently guided and helped by her husband. And this is all in the context of, in the future, I think there will be like temples, or places where people go to travel, and it's like a sacred place where they help people to leave their bodies in a loving way. uh, okay, so don't label people your hierarchy, like higher or lower than you. Commit to marriage, no premarital intimacy. Help other people get there, and practice fair trade and veganism, and aim to live as long as possible with. This might seem odd, but it's important to. It's 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 like a moral obligation. We should try to live as long as possible out of respect for our ancestors who suffered a lot to get us here. And by the way, that was us. We incarnated and we came to us. Miss Debbie, thanks for the continued dialogue here. I'm going to get right with you. Just bear with me. So yeah, those are the core principles. If you want to join Shield Heart, you've got to want a loving marriage. You've got to avoid premarital intimacy, and it's about preferring to do that. There should be logic and emotional reasons for wanting to do that. Don't label anyone your authority or your submissive. Practice veganism, and don't enable people who are problematic, including stuff like pit bulls, who are a real threat to humans. You can look at videos to that effect. Okay, so right, Miss Debbie. Okay, so I'm going to answer all of your questions now. So, question 1: should men still humanely kill their wives? Men should help guide their wives out of their wives' body, and the way that's done is, and I think the woman should be the one who administers or takes the thing that quickly and humanely like stops their bodily function. But the man should be there to help guide them through it. And the next question is, when was I with a woman? When was I sexually intimate with a woman? It's been probably 5 years, but when I say that that men prefer virgins, I'm speaking about it in the context of like men want women who, for all like all these like alpha males or whatever it is, everybody wants a virgin, whether they're the most attractive and richest men or not. And so, but in order to create that reality, we all have to make women virgins by protecting them, and that subsequently makes all men virgins. And then it creates a real positive synergy and magnetism when they actually unite together, and there's no prior attachments or memories associated, which make you, for example, if you always went to your favorite restaurant with someone, then you broke up, then you would no longer want to go there and wouldn't want to eat your favorite food because it reminds you of them. That's what I mean. So, and then how do you go about finding women? So I want I don't consider myself ready for marriage yet, but it's really simple. Men are the only ones who can propose marriage, and men should only talk to a woman when they're ready for marriage. So they are financially and emotionally ready for marriage, and they know that themselves. And so they can approach a woman and say, and this is like after some nonverbal cues have affirmed the interest on both sides. So like let's say you're at wherever place you frequent socially, or at work even, and you see this person regularly or fairly, you see them sometimes, and then you see them, they see you, and it's like you can tell visually that you're both kind of looking at each other. Then that's the woman's, and the woman might be showing off her body to you a little. Those are visual, nonverbal confirmations of interest, and so then that's a cue for the man to say, hey, I'm looking for a wife. Are you interested in finding a husband, or have you been preparing for marriage, or what are your thoughts on it? Like, try to strike up a conversation along those lines, and then encourage her to look more into you, see, your social media or your website or your whatever it is. You should have a public. Okay, so that's how you go about it, Debbie. You don't mess around. The woman is the only, and the woman's job is to control sexuality, and it's hard for her to do that alone since women are more emotional. So that's why they should always, as much as possible, just cling to their fathers and their brothers who will look out for them, and 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 because the only thing a woman can do is not give away her body until marriage. It would be like, for a woman to give up her body before marriage is the same thing as a man giving his commitment to her even though she doesn't actually like him or isn't married to him. You talk about how to have a relationship but you've never had a relationship. I have had some relationships, but here. Let me ask you, Debbie, if 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 people get in a car accident and it's documented how it happened and how to avoid it in the future, isn't that a way we can learn? Like, we should be able to learn from each other's mistakes, you know. uh, Miss Debbie, I do appreciate the humor. Uh, and and you know, the thing about pit bulls or dogs even is, why would you want any time less with humans? Like, I think people kind of play around and think that they don't need to focus on humans and helping humans to grow and kids, and so they get stuff like pets or hobbies and all this stuff. But we really, and you know, I really do appreciate also the erotic comments of uh, liking intercourse. Yes, everyone, should admit they like intercourse, but to have it consistently and on a regular basis, we need to get married, because those boyfriend girlfriend secret, romance stuff, all it does is it makes us not trust ourselves, because we're just basically trading body for body. It's prostitution, even though there's no money involved. So in order to get consistent sexual intimacy and trust yourself, and it's not just based upon sex, and it's really love, and it's the fusion of physical and cerebral connection. That's how you get an ideal society, because guess what? With that comes stable couples, stable families, stable communities, and a stabilized world where people trust each other because they're not trying to seduce each other's daughters or sisters or future wives, but we're trying to celebrate and uphold the potential of everyone, at least most people, generally speaking, being able to have a loving marriage. And Debbie, your time has been appreciated. If you'd like, uh, send me an email, or if you need to check in, what have you, talk about things about more about Shieldheart, and we can debate more about the pet ownership and the quote unquote love. But I would say, how can you love a pet? Because even though pets may try to mimic the connection of, like mammals like to play and be playful. Oh man, Miss Debbie, thank you. I mean, it's assumed that you're actually a woman. I mean, it would be nice if you were a woman, because that would be more realistic, you know, instead of the guy like perving out on the internet pretending to be a woman. But all right, thank you. Thanks for your presence, and some of the stuff you might agree with or disagree with. But yeah, it's ultimately, even if you don't like Shieldheart as a as a as a as a as a thought, as a conceptual thing or a religion, then you should at least have your own religion, and it should be based upon things that are important to you, and that way you stand for that. Like for example, it's about being principled. So if you really know who you are, you can say no to people who, like, if you really know that, for example, you don't like a certain food, then if somebody invites you, say, hey, let's go out. It's not ambiguous. It's not like, oh, I'm thinking about whether I whether maybe we should go out, and you say no. And by the way, people, like, here's the biggest mistake. People always get manipulated. They people offer them food, or they say come to dinner, and it's more of a command. It's not really an offer. You have to say no. You have to set boundaries. People manipulate each other by offering each other free things, but nothing's really free. You know, yeah, and when you're in somebody's car, if you're on a date with them, you're going to feel psychologically obligated to them. That's why dating should only be for married couples. Thank you for the considerations. Remember to tune into the Saturday night Waikiki uh, Megahorn. I shout out as a street preacher. That's a lot of fun. And then the recap and detail assessment on Sunday for the Sunday show. Aloha, guys. Till next Saturday. Take care, Miss Debbie.